For today, it would be helpful to have a ball or a pillow. We'll only use those for a couple of the exercises, so if you don't have that available, don't worry about that. And we're gonna go ahead and get started. So my name is Naya Calmels. This is Mindful Movement. Our class goes from 10 to 10:55. And I've been unmuting people towards the end of the class so that we can check in with each other. So you're welcome to stay and chat. I'd love your feedback. If you need to get going, then I completely understand that. You can also email me as well and give me your feedback there. Today's class will be relatively gentle, and tomorrow I'm leading a class through Mindful Movement, my business, and it'll be a little bit more athletic. So depending upon what you're looking for, I hope to see you for both classes. So we'll get started in supine position on our mats. Supine means lying on your back. Your knees will be bent, soles of the feet on the floor, sits bone distance apart. So we'll begin there. And our focus for today is going to be control. In a world where there are so many things we cannot control, it's nice to know that we can actually control our own bodies. So as you lie down, find your anchor points, allowing the back of the head to rest into the mat, shoulder blades to draw wide across the back of the rib cage. Lower base of the rib cage resting down into the mat. Lengthen through the spine. The sacrum lies relatively flat on the mat. Knees are in line with the second toe. Toes are spread wide. Feet sits bone distance apart. And then draw your attention to your breath, using the inhale to expand the rib cage wide and deep into the mat. And on the exhale, find the lift of the pelvic floor. Draw the lower abs towards the spine and see if you can get a little bit more length through the core here. We'll take a few more breaths, just focusing on the inhale to expand the rib cage and lengthen the spine. And on your exhale, find your co-contraction. So that's the coordinated contraction of lifting pelvic floor, drawing lower abs in, and engaging the small spinal extensor muscles that run along the spine. And then on your next exhale, co-contract and curl pubic bone towards belly button, imprinting the lumbar spine or lower spine into the mat, and inhale back to center. Exhale, curling the pelvis north. Inhale, relaxing back to center. Exhale, curl north into a northern tilt. This time, as you inhale, go through center, send the pubic bone towards the back of the heels, lengthening the front body, and then exhale, curl north again. So as we continue to go back and forth through northern and southern tilt, you can imagine that you have a compass lying flat on your belly. North is towards your head, south is towards your feet. The next time that we come back to center, we'll pause here and we'll go east to west or east to west or left to right. So think about the right side of the back of the pelvis weighing down heavily into the mat, so much so that the pelvis starts to rotate towards the right slightly. And then come back to center, and the left side of the pelvis starts to dip down towards the mat, weighing heavily there. And continue to alternate from side to side, rotating the pelvis from the right to the left or east to west. And as you do so, notice that it's going to be a pretty small movement here. Keep length through the side body. So it's almost as though you're trying to continue creating like almost traction, pulling the pelvis away from the bottom of the rib cage to keep the length as you rotate. Upper body is quiet. And the next time that you come back to center, we'll pause here. We're going to work our way up the spine, draw arms up towards the ceiling, palms facing in, and then think about drawing the back of the rib cage in towards the mat. So we're going to control the rib cage as we move the arms. Shoulder blades draw down into the mat as you reach fingertips up towards the ceiling. Keep the rib cage rooted to the mat as you draw arms overhead. Thumbs might come all the way down to the floor, or you might stop, making sure that the rib cage stays rooted. And then draw arms back up towards the ceiling again. And inhale, draw arms overhead, ribcage stays rooted to the mat. That's going to define where your end range is. And then exhale as you come back up to center. One more time. These are called rib cage arms, drawing arms overhead. And they're called rib cage arms because our focus is keeping the rib cage rooted to the mat here. Now we're going to start on the right arm. Spiral the pinky side of the hand inward so the thumb rotates away from midline of the body. And as you spiral, reach the fingertips up towards the ceiling, so much so that the right shoulder comes off of the mat. And then unwind, draw the right shoulder back down to the mat, switch to the other side. Reaching the left hand up as it spirals. Left shoulder is coming off of the mat, and then unwind, coming back down. And we'll alternate from side to side here, doing scapular reaches, getting as much rotation as you can through the entire arm, so the entire arm spirals around. The fingertips are just a reflection of what's happening at the shoulder joint. And one more time on each side, reaching up, allowing the torso to rotate slightly as you reach the shoulder up off the mat, and then unwinding to come back down, and switching to the other side. And then we'll bring arms down by our sides. We'll go into skull bowl circles next. So think about having a pencil on the tip of your nose, and it's reaching all the way up towards the ceiling. It's a very long pencil. And you're going to create little tiny circles the size of a dime with that pencil. And as you do so, stay long through the back of the neck. Stay grounded through your anchor points. So remember that these circles, again, are the size of a dime. They're super small. So small that it might feel like your head is barely moving at all. And the purpose of these exercises, go ahead and switch directions with your circle. The purpose of this exercise is to release the suboccipital muscles at the base of the skull. So for any of you that spend a lot of time in front of a computer or any other screen, oftentimes our head lives a little forward of the neck. And this exercise is meant to release those muscles that often get tight when we hold that posture. I don't know about you guys, but I've had a lot more screen time in the last month. This is a nice one to do, especially after you've been in front of the computer for a while. One more circle in this direction, and then come back to lengthening the back of the neck, heads in line with the neck, long spine here. We're going to go into articulating bridges. So you're going to think about that northern tilt of the pelvis, really scooping the pelvis. And then we'll go into a bridge, moving one vertebra at a time. On your next exhale, co-contract, curl pubic bone towards belly button, so you're imprinting the lumbar spine into the mat. We're going to go slowly here. As you start to peel the sacrum, that triangular bone at the base of the spine, off of the mat, keep the lower spine imprinted in the mat. You have 5 lumbar vertebrae. See if you can feel each one lifting off the mat one at a time. Keep the knees in line with the second toe. I said the focus was control for this class, right? So we're focusing on control and moving in really small increments here. Once you get up to the height of your bridge, see if you can squeeze your glutes a little bit more to open up through the front of the hips a little bit more while keeping the breastbone relaxed here. Allow the shoulders to root down into the mat. And then draw arms up overhead, palms facing in. We're going to go back to rib cage arms. Keep shoulder blades wide. Keep the pelvis lifted by keeping the glutes squeezing. And then draw arms overhead on the inhale, lengthening through the spine. Exhale, bring the arms back up towards the ceiling. Inhale overhead. Exhale, arms back up towards the ceiling. Keep the glutes squeezed. That's just a nice way of saying squeeze your butt. And bring the legs back, or excuse me, bring the arms back up towards the ceiling. And then slowly roll back down, keeping fingertips reaching up towards the ceiling as you move through the spine, lengthening the spine as you draw one vertebra at a time back down to the mat. We're moving really slowly here and coming all the way back to neutral spine, neutral pelvis. Take your arms out into a T position, feet as wide as your mat, and then windshield wiper your knees from side to side. If you found that it was difficult to keep your knees in line with your second toe, you might want to take your pillow or ball and place it between your knees. So right between your knees here, and you would only squeeze as much into the ball as you need to not allow it to drop. So same thing with the pillow as well. Get ready for your next bridge. Toes are spread wide. Lengthen through the spine on the inhale. On your next exhale, co-contract. Curl pubic bone north and start to lift the sacrum and then one vertebra at a time off of the mat. See if you can get more scoop in the pelvis before you lift the lower spine off of the mat. Continuing to roll up. It should take a few breaths to get all the way to the top of your bridge. Lengthen through the spine. Open up through the front of the hips even more. Lengthen through the top of the thighs. From here, we're going to go into that same east, west, or right to left rotation of the pelvis. So keep the lift and then allow the right back of the pelvis to draw down towards the mat in rotation. And come back to center and the left side rotates. Come back to center, alternating from side to side, keeping the squeeze in the glutes. Good, one more time to each side. Come back to center. Good, and then come on to the balls of your feet and come back onto the heels. Keep the pelvis lifted, balls of the feet, roll back onto the heels. One more time, coming onto the balls of the feet and coming back onto the heels. Place the entire sole of the foot on the floor, roll back down with control. Take about 3 to 4 breaths to get all the way back to neutral spine, neutral pelvis. Rolling back down one vertebra at a time. All right, we're gonna go into 2 more articulating bridges. Feel free to stretch out the hamstrings, shake your legs out a little bit. You might want a windshield wiper from side to side. I would remove the ball or the pillow at this point if you were using one because we're going to be doing some variations with our legs. And remember, all of this is up to you. So if there are certain things I'm leading you through, you can always go back to the basic or foundational movements. You don't need to continue to add on choreography. So our focus again is control. Make sure you're controlling the foundational movements. And then if you feel like you want to build upon that, then go ahead and do so. So with that in mind, 2 more bridges. On our next exhale, co-contract, curl pubic bone towards belly button as you start to roll up. Continuing to open through the front of the hips. Shoulders are relaxed, chest is relaxed. Lengthen through the back of the neck. And then I'm feeling like I want to walk my heels a little bit closer here to support me. Make sure that your feet are in a position that you feel like you can keep your pelvis in neutral. I often refer to pelvic headlights shining up towards the sky. Make sure that your pelvis stays square to the sky or pelvic headlights are shining as you bring your right leg into tabletop position. And from here, you'll tap your toe down, hinging from the hip joint and coming back up again. 2 more here. And last one. Good, and then come onto the ball of your standing foot and bring the heel down. Come onto the ball of the standing foot, bring the heel down. One more time, come onto the ball, bring the heel down, straighten the leg. You're gonna roll down with straight leg. Really making sure that you're curling the pelvis as you come back down, coming all the way back down in neutral spine, neutral pelvis, and then bring the foot to the floor. On your next exhale, co-contract, curling back up again. If you're getting any hamstring cramps, make sure you take care of them. And what I mean by that is stretch out your hamstrings. All right, reach your pelvis up towards the sky. Squeeze the glutes. Stay soft in the chest. Spread toes wide on your right foot as you send the left leg in the tabletop position. Stay open through the front of the right hip. Tap the left toe down to the floor and come back up again. Pelvis is stable here. One more time, toe tapping. Bring the leg back to tabletop. Come onto the ball of your right foot, your standing leg, and back down. And lift and lower. And lift and lower. Last time, lift and lower. Straighten your left leg. You're at about knee height here. And then roll back down one vertebra at a time. Curling the pelvis. Coming back down to lower spine. Sacrum, bring the left foot back down to the floor. Take your feet as wide as your mat. Arms can go out into a T or low V, and windshield wiper your knees from side to side. Oh, I hope you all feel as good as I do. All right, so same idea with moving your knees from side to side. Notice that my pelvis is following my knees right now. So the next time that I come back to center, I'm going to keep my pelvic headlight shining up towards the sky and just windshield wiper the legs. So the movement's going to be a lot smaller, and I can feel the head of the leg and the hip joint internally and externally rotating. Good, one more time to each side. And the next time the knees come back to center, draw the legs together so inner border of the thighs all the way down to inner border of the feet are touching. Clasp your hands over your chest like you're giving yourself a hug, and then allow both the knees and the pelvis to windshield wiper from side to side again. Keeping that inner thigh all the way down to inner borders of the feet touching. So you're kind of squeezing the legs together here. You're welcome to stay here or bring your legs in a tabletop position. Either way, you're maintaining long side body. When you have your legs in tabletop, remember both shoulders are rooted down to the mat, same as when you had your feet on the mat. And your range of motion is determined by your ability to control this lumbopelvic movement, lower spine, lumbar spine, and pelvis moving, specifically rotating. Be mindful of the lower back. Make sure that it doesn't start to arch or overarch on you. There is a natural arch there. We just don't want to exacerbate it. Squeeze the inner thighs together. We're going to go one more time to each side. And then come back to center. You'll take your arms by your sides. If you're not already in tabletop, you'll bring your legs there now. And then we'll flex the feet and go into marching, drawing the right heel down towards the mat, and then switching, bringing the left heel down as the right heel rises, alternating from side to side, staying long in the spine, keeping the pelvis neutral. So we're allowing the head of the leg bone to hinge in the hip joint as we maintain control over the torso and over the pelvis. Back of the rib cage is rooted down towards the mat. Sacrum's lying relatively flat on the mat. Feel free to stay here, or if you want to add on more challenge, next time you come back, you'll bring your legs together, clasp your hands at the base of the skull, draw shoulder blades wide, elbows come out at a 45-degree angle. On your next exhale, co-contract, lift pelvic floor, draw lower belly in. Use the lower abs as you tilt chin to chest to peel the upper body off of the mat. And from here, we'll continue our marching, feet flexed. If it bothers your lower back to bring the heels all the way to the floor, just make the movement smaller. In general, some of the best modifications for any exercise are just making the movement smaller. Good, and 5 more, and 4, and 3, and 2. Last one on each side. Come back to tabletop, clasp your hands at the front of your shins, draw your knees into your chest as you roll down, allowing the head to come back to the mat. You might want to rock from side to side. And then you'll either take your arms by your sides or out into a T position. Come back to that tabletop position, and we're going to abduct and adduct the leg, starting on the right side, keeping the knee in line and the ankle in line. You're going to draw the leg away from midline while your pelvic headlights shine up towards the sky, and then come back to your start position. Stay on the right leg, opening the leg and bringing it back to parallel. Hips stay square to the ceiling, assuming you have a flat ceiling. Good. So to make this a little bit more challenging, you can also bring your arms up towards the sky versus having them out in a T position. That way it's your core that's keeping the pelvis stable versus pressing into the hands. One more time on the right side, and now we're going to go to the left. You might also place your first 2 fingers on the front of the bony landmarks of the pelvis, the ASIS, and make sure that they're not moving. That's another way to check in and make sure that your pelvis isn't following the weight of your leg. 3 more here for 3 and 2. And last one. And then draw your knees into your chest. You might want to rock from side to side. We're going to keep the right knee drawn in. Left leg is going to go long. You're welcome to keep your head on the floor, or you can tilt your chin towards your chest and curl up. Right hand goes on the outside of the right ankle. Left hand is on the inside of the right knee. See if you can use your lower abs to curl up a little bit higher, as though you're going to bring your forehead towards your knee. And then switch. Bringing left knee in, right leg goes long, and switch again. Alternating from side to side. I should say alternating legs. Pelvis is stable. Legs are hinging in the hip joint. See if you can curl up a little bit higher for 5, 4, 3, 2. Last one. Draw knees into your chest and rest for a moment. Good, and then you'll bring your left foot to the floor, right leg will stay in. Draw your knee right over the hip. If you have a strap and it's more comfortable for you to use a strap, feel free to do that. And you're going to make little tiny stirs with the knee. So imagine the head of the leg weighing heavily in the cup of the pelvis, and you're rotating the leg in that cup, a ball and socket joint. Little tiny circles here, massaging the hip, and then switch, changing the direction of your circle. It's kind of an active recovery here. One more circle in this direction. Foot rests on the floor, switch to the other side, lifting the left leg, knees in line over the hip, and then stirring the head of the leg in the cup of the pelvis. This is also something that you could do using a yoga strap with the legs straight, heel reaching towards the ceiling. So there are different variations for this. I'm just keeping this a really low prop class for today. Switch the direction of your circle. Remember, the head of the leg's moving, the pelvis is still. And one more circle here. All right, foot goes back to the floor just momentarily. On your next exhale, you'll bring your legs back in a tabletop. Clasp the hands at the base of the skull. On your next exhale, co-contract, curling up. And we're gonna tap right foot down to the floor and then left foot down to the floor. Right leg comes up, left leg comes up. So right foot taps, left foot taps. Right leg comes back to tabletop, left leg comes back to tabletop. See if you can curl up a little bit higher. And down, down, up, up, down, down, up, up. Last time in this direction. Up, up. Bring the left foot down, then right foot down. And then left foot up, right foot up. Left foot down, right foot down. Left foot up, right foot up. See if you can curl up a little bit higher. Here we go. Down, down, up, up, down, down, up, up. Rib cage, pelvis are stable. Just the legs move in the hip joint. Last time. Here we go. And now bring your right knee in, left leg goes long, curl up, single leg stretch. See if you can get your forehead a little closer to that right knee, and then switch to the other side. We're doing the same exercise we were doing a couple minutes ago. We're reaching the opposite leg long as you draw the other knee in towards the chest. Good. Be mindful of that knee. Make sure it's in line with the nipple. It's not going out towards the armpit. It's not crossing over midline. See if you can curl up a little bit higher with your lower abs. And 5 more here for 5, 4, 3, 2. I'm going to remind you about control during transitions. Last one, grab your knees in towards your chest and roll down. You might want to rock from side to side. So we're going to do a similar exercise called crisscross. We're going to add the rotation of the torso. So coming back to this tabletop position, clasping hands at the base of the skull, shoulder blades are wide. Draw the elbows out to that 45-degree angle. This time you're going to draw your right knee in, left leg goes long. Curl up and then rotate to the right. And notice I'm not rotating and trying to draw my elbow towards my knee. I'm trying to keep a long spine, and I'm taking my gaze to the right wall. And then I'll switch. Alternating from side to side. rotating rotating the torso as much as I can so that my gaze is on the opposite wall each time. Pelvis is stable. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Draw knees into the chest, roll back down. I did say this was going to be a gentle class. I don't know if it's still feeling gentle. But I hope you're enjoying it. Draw your knees into your chest, rock from side to side. We're going to do one more set of those with an option for legs extended. So you can either do scissor legs or knees bent, especially if you have tight hamstrings or lower back issues. You might stick with one more set of what we just did. Otherwise, you can start with your legs reaching up towards the ceiling, lengthening through the back of the legs as much as you can. Hands are clasped at the base of the skull. On your next exhale, co-contract, curling up. Head's heavy in your palms. That's important. So we really want to make sure that that lift happens from lower abs, not from pulling on the neck. And from here, draw the right leg in as you twist to the right and switch to the other side. Alternating from side to side. If you feel like this is getting into your lower back, again, like usual, make the movement a little bit smaller or come into a bent knee position. All right, and 5 more times for 5, 4, 3, 2, and last one. Back to center, draw knees into chest. Oh, come on down. Rock from side to side. How many more oblique exercises do you guys want to do? Oh, no more? Okay, that's all right. We're going to go into dying bug, and then we're going to switch our position. So dying bug, which I haven't found a better name for. If you think of a good one, please let me know because I hate saying it. Arms are going to be reaching up towards the ceiling. Knees bent into tabletop position. Lengthen through the spine. Keep your pelvis rooted in that neutral position. On your next exhale, co-contract, extend right arm, left leg long. Pointing through the toes, and then draw the leg and arm back to center. We'll switch to the other side. Reaching long through the arm and the leg, and back to center. Think of the rib cage arms we did at the beginning of the session. We were thinking about rooting through the back of the rib cage as we brought both arms overhead. As you bring each arm overhead one at a time, stay rooted down through the base of the rib cage. And again, we have the hips hinging, or the legs hinging in the hip joint here. Pelvis stays stable as you extend the leg. So even though what we see are arms and legs moving, this is really an exercise in keeping the shoulder girdle, keeping the rib cage and the pelvis stable. One more time on each side. And actually, we've got to do one more to even it all out. There we go. All right, draw knees in towards your chest, rock from side to side. Oh, and we're going to come into a seated position. So roll to one side, come up into a seated position with your legs open in front of you. So as straight of the legs as you can get. I have really tight hamstrings, so my legs are not always all that straight. Long spine, root down through your sits bones. If being in this position is really uncomfortable for you, you might want to take your pillow and sit on your pillow. You might want to grab anything that will raise your pelvis a little bit higher than your legs. So feel free to make some adjustments. Reach through the heels. Arms are going to come out into a T position. Draw shoulders down the back of the rib cage. And then we're going to rotate to the left. Come back to center. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Rotate to the right. We're going to alternate from side to side, rotating. Each time we twist, we're also thinking about lengthening through the spine. So I often use the image of wringing out a towel. We don't just ball it up and squeeze and twist. Well, some people do. But a more efficient way of wringing out a towel would be to twist and pull. So think about that with your spine as you rotate from one side to the other. And this time when you come back to center, draw the legs together. Continue to reach through the heels, lengthen through the spine. Sits bones drop down into the floor, and we'll continue to rotate from side to side. And you might find that one side of the pelvis wants to lift a little each time you rotate. When you have your legs wider, it gives you a firmer base or a wider base. See if you can keep your sits bones rooted down equally on both sides each time you rotate. One more time, coming back to center. Hands go down by your sides. You're going to cross one leg over the top of the other. Sole of the foot is on the floor. Take the opposite hand either around the outside of the knee, or you might even draw the elbow on the inside of, let me rephrase that. The elbow might come to the outside of the crossed leg, kind of depending upon your perspective here. I personally like to grab it from the other side. And then you're going to take a look over the opposite shoulder. As you look over your left shoulder, reach through that right straight leg, particularly reaching through the heel. Lengthen through the spine, growing taller. And then come back to center. We're going to switch to the other side. A note about your back hand. You're going to take your back hand and draw it as close to the back of your pelvis as possible, so you're not starting to lean back. So part of what that does for you as well is gives you something to push into, to root down into the ground, to lengthen the spine even more. And then from here, you can either take your arm to the outside or take your hand around the outside of the knee, and then twist looking over your right shoulder. I might have cued that incorrectly the last time. Sorry about that. Continuing to grow long as you look over your shoulder. Taking one more breath here. And then gently coming out of your twist, go ahead and uncross your legs. And then we're going to come into a side bend. For me personally, I like to be in this position. I know this doesn't work for a lot of people's knees. You might sit cross-legged, but when we go into a side bend, you want to be able to ground down through both sits bones. My sits bones are pretty much on top of my heels. That's fine, but make sure your sits bones can ground equally into something. And again, lengthening through the spine. Take your left hand, reach it down into the floor as you sweep your right arm up towards the sky, palm is facing in. Breathe into the side of the rib cage as you side bend. So you're trying to get a lift through the whole side body, expansion through the side of the rib cage. And then be mindful of not rotating, but actually keeping the sternum forward. Opposite shoulder with the hand that's reaching into the mat is drawing down the back of the rib cage. One more breath here, and then use your abs to draw back up to center, and we'll switch to the other side, grounding down through the opposite hand into the mat. Shoulder blade draws down the back of the rib cage, sternum stays forward as you reach up and over. And what I mean by sternum stays forward is that we're not rotating here. One more breath here. Staying long through the side body. And then coming back up to center. We're going to take our arms out to our sides in a T position and then bend the elbows so we're coming into goalpost arms. Draw the elbows slightly forward of the side body. We're going into coronal arm circles. So you're going to draw shoulder blades towards each other, draw them up towards the earlobes, draw them wide across the back of the rib cage, and then draw them back down. Okay, before we move again, check in. Are your elbows right in line with your side body? Because I can see at least one or two of you, and it looks like they're right in line. You want to draw them slightly forward. The reason for that is the scapula moves better across the barrel of the rib cage. This is called scapation. If your elbows are slightly forward of the side body. So from a side angle, even though we are often used to being right here, we actually want to draw the elbows slightly forward here. So think about that as you draw shoulder blades towards each other, in, up, out, and down. In, up, out, and down. You can also do this from a standing position. Up, out, down, and shake it out. And when you shake it out, shake the shoulders a little bit, do a little shoulder shimmy. You might also want to let the head roll from side to side. We're doing this one more time, going the opposite way this time. Here we go. So goalpost arms, elbows slightly forward of the side body. We started going in. This time we're going to draw the shoulder blades away from each other. Then drop them down the back of the rib cage. This is kind of ideal position for some of the stuff we'll be doing in quadruped in a few minutes. And then draw shoulder blades in and up, out and down. Again, is ideal when we're using our like plank position, quadruped position. Down. Good. Continuing here. One more time. And then shake it out. And really shake it out, shake it out, shake it out. All right. Quadruped position. So quadruped is a fancy way of saying you're going to be on all fours. In this position, you want to have your wrists underneath your shoulders, knees underneath your hips, and you want to draw the belly in so that you're drawing belly towards, we often say towards the spine. I want you to think about drawing it towards your lower spine, if not your sacrum. So it's a really low, low belly here. We were just talking about our shoulders. Play a little bit with drawing the shoulder blades towards each other and then pulling them apart. Drawing them towards each other and pulling them apart. One more time, drawing them towards each other and then pulling them apart. We want to keep them pulled apart. And then drawing them up the rib cage and down the rib cage. Up the rib cage and down the rib cage. Up the rib cage and down the rib cage. And then, as a reminder, we want them pulled apart and drawn down the rib cage as we move from this position. So as we move from this position, I'm actually going to walk forward a little bit so you can see my legs a little bit better. Keeping shoulder blades wide, belly lifted, long spine. Right arm and left leg are going to start to reach along the floor. Palm is facing in, pinky side of the hand is touching the ground. You're going to reach out all the way until you cannot extend the arm and leg any further. At this point, your fingertips and toes are still touching the ground. Keep the belly drawn in, keep the pelvis square to the floor as you send arm and leg up to shoulder and hip height. Hold here, and 3, 2, 1. Tap down to the floor, or reach long again, coming up to shoulder and hip height. Holding for 2 more breaths, long through the back of the neck, and then come down to tap and reach back up again. Good. Holding for 1 more breath, drawing fingertips and toes to the floor, and then coming back to your start position. We're going to switch to the other side. On your next exhale, co-contract, lengthening through the spine as you send fingertips and toes long on the floor. Extend out as much as you can, and then reach longer to lift shoulder up, arm up to shoulder height, leg up to hip height. 1 more breath here, and then tap down to the floor and draw back up again. Holding for 1 more breath, and tap down to the floor, and reach long, floating arm and leg back up again. Good, keep drawing belly to spine, and reach through the back of the leg. 1 more time, tapping down, reaching long again. And then this time when you tap down, you'll draw arm and leg back to your start position. We're going to go into a wide-legged child's pose. If you prefer keeping your legs in parallel, go ahead and do so. You're going to reach heels back towards your sits bones. Wait, let me rephrase that. You're going to reach your sits bones back towards your heels. Lengthen through the spine. Draw the belly towards the sacrum. Allow the forehead to rest on the mat. You might flip your palms up towards the ceiling, getting a little bit more stretch to the back of the shoulders. 1 more breath here. And then flip palms back onto the mat. Use your abs to come out of child's pose, and we're going to come onto our sides. We're going to go into a side bridge. So we're still working on scapula. We've been doing scapula mobility and scapular stability. So here you really want to focus on sliding the scapula, or the shoulder blades, which is another word for scapula, is just the anatomical word for shoulder blades. So draw the scapula down the back of the rib cage. Your elbows aligned underneath the shoulder, and your fingertips are out towards the front corner of your mat. So as you draw the shoulder blade down, imagine someone has a string from the opposite side of your rib cage, lifting the rib cage up. And then relax. And draw the shoulder blade down on the right side to lift the opposite side of the rib cage up towards the sky. and rest. And draw the shoulder blade down and rest. One more time. So when we do side bridging and side planking, oftentimes we forget to lift the rib cage. So I'm starting here to remind you to get that lift before we add on. So keep the lift of the rib cage up high towards the ceiling. Imagine someone now also has a string from the side of your pelvis, lifting your side of your pelvis and your rib cage at the same time. So from here, as you press into the forearm, press into the palm, you're going to draw shoulder down the rib cage, lift the rib cage, and lift the pelvis. And then come back down slowly and with control. And then again, pressing into the forearm, shoulder blade draws down the back of the rib cage lifts, pelvis lifts. My feet are stacked here. If you would prefer to have one foot in front of the other, it'll give you a little bit more stability. So choose what's most appropriate for you. 2 more here, drawing shoulder blade down the rib cage, lifting pelvis. Keep lifting, lifting, lifting pelvis, and then come back down. Last one, and sliding shoulder blades down the rib cage and lifting here. Good. We're going to do one more bridge in this position or side plank. You can do side plank on your forearm or come onto your palm. I'm going to stick with the basics. So if side plank is part of your practice, go ahead and go into it. Otherwise, I'm just going to demonstrate what I've just been doing, but I want you guys to be able to play around a little bit. So regardless of what version you're doing, bridging or side planking, still keep that rib cage and pelvic engagement. On your next exhale, draw the lower belly in, slide right shoulder down the back of the rib cage and lift here. And you might even decide to reach through the heels, coming into side plank. Sternum facing forward. You might draw your top arm up towards the ceiling. Keep lifting the pelvis, keep lifting your rib cage. You might float the top leg up to about hip height. And then gently come down, bending the knees, and rest. Nice job. All right, from here, we're going to stay on this side, lying on our mat in kind of a pencil shape position. Make sure that your head is supported so that your neck is up. So I think somebody might need to mute their microphone, just as a suggestion. Long through the spine, reach through the heels, and then draw your top leg up to hip height. Internally rotate from the top of the leg. And then from here, we're going to raise it just at about 3 or 4 more inches and come back down. We're staying in internal rotation here, doing our little leg lifts, long through the side body. And you can keep your hand on your hip, rest it by your side, or put it in front of you. Gaze is straight forward. Pelvic headlights are straight forward. Good. Keep that internal rotation from the top of the leg. And then we're going to come into parallel position. Let the foot relax. 3 more here for 3, 2, 1, and then externally rotate from the top of the leg. Continuing here. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let this leg bend. Place the foot on the ground behind your front leg. If it feels more comfortable to keep your hips square to place it in front, that's fine too. Reach through the bottom leg. Raise the entire leg about 3 inches off the ground. And from here, using your inner thighs or your adductors, you're going to draw the leg in towards midline. And then keep control as you keep it hovering above the floor, about 3 inches. So it's a small movement, and your focus is on lifting up and up and up. And as you do so, you don't want to let gravity take over and pull you right back down to the ground. So you have to keep that control as the leg lowers to hover a few inches above the floor. And 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and last one. Take your top leg, let it rest on top of the bottom leg. Keep reaching through the heels and that same movement of lifting the leg up. So you're starting 3 inches above the floor and then pulling both legs up, staying long through the side body. You should feel the inner thighs working, particularly on that bottom leg. And 5, 4, 3, 2, last one. And then bend the knees. We're going to come over onto the other side, going into our side bridge. All right, so starting with your elbow underneath the shoulder, fingertips facing towards the front corner of the mat, lengthening through the side body. We're just going to start by focusing on drawing the shoulder down the rib cage and lifting the opposite side of the rib cage up towards the sky. So take a few breaths here, and I like to exhale, draw the belly in as I send the rib cage up towards the sky. And then inhale, relaxing back to my start position. Let's add on the lift of the pelvis as well. So imagine there's that string from the top side of the pelvis lifting you up. Good. Rib cage still lifts as well, and coming back down. Good. And exhale, draw belly in and lift and lower. Exhale, draw scapula down the back of the rib cage, lifting and lowering. 2 more here. Lifting and lowering, and lift and lower. Good. And then from here, you'll decide if you want to just stay in this side bridge or if you want to go into a full plank position. On your next exhale, co-contract, draw belly in, shoulder draws down the back of the rib cage lifts, pelvis lifts. You might keep your knees bent, you might straighten your legs, and I kind of have to readjust here. So you might need to do the same. As you do this, keep the lift in the rib cage, lift in the pelvis. You're getting a nice arc underneath you. You might draw top arm up towards the ceiling. You might take the top leg up to hip height. Keep the bottom shoulder blade drawn down the back of the rib cage, and then gently bring the leg back down, arm down, and gently bend the knees and rest. Or reach the arm long. Make sure the neck is supported. Reach long through the heels. Imagine that you have a wall behind you. You're trying to keep the back body in line with the wall. Top leg reaches up to hip height. Internally rotate the leg. And then from here, little tiny movements. Drawing the leg up and back to hip height again. Hip height again. Stay long through the side body, particularly the top. So sometimes it's nice to even place your hands on the hip. Give it a little traction as you lift the leg. Keep the back of the lower rib cage touching that imaginary wall behind you so that you're not flaring the chest out. And then come to parallel, let the foot relax, and continue lifting from here. So you should feel more work through the lateral side of the hip here. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Externally rotate and then draw the leg up again. So remember, this rotation happens at the top of the leg. The foot is just a reflection of what's happening at the top of the leg. And 5, 4, 3, 2, last one. And then take the foot, bending the knee, place the sole of the foot behind the bottom leg, unless you like to have it in the front, or reach long through the heel of the bottom leg, and then lift the leg up to about 3 inches above the floor. And from here, you're going to lift up even a little bit higher, and then come back to those 3 inches above the floor. And lift and lower. As you continue to lift and lower, stay long through the side body. Pelvic headlights keep shining in front of you. Neck is relaxed. Shoulders are relaxed. 5 more here for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're going to reach both legs long, keep the legs about 3 inches from the floor, lengthen through the side body, and then lift both legs up towards the ceiling. Imagining a string from the outside of the top ankle, lifting both legs. You should feel the work happening from the inner thigh of the bottom leg. Staying long through the side body. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and last one. Beautiful. Draw the top arm overhead, reach long through arms and legs, and very gracefully with control, you're going to roll onto your belly. If you're rolling off of your mat like I am, you might have to put your palms underneath you and readjust. All right, arms are going to be facing out in front of you. Pinky side of the hand is touching the floor. Forehead is resting on the mat. Draw shoulders down the back of the rib cage, and in prone position or lying on your belly, your most important anchor point, which many of you already know, is your pubic bone. So curl the pelvis underneath you to lengthen through the lower spine, rooting through the pubic bone. On your next exhale, lift the belly towards the spine as you reach through arms and legs equally, so much so that they start to float up off of the mat. Forehead floats up off the mat, chest floats off the mat. Continue to reach through the pinky side of the hand, reach through the back of the legs, and then gently keep that reach as you come back down to the floor. Inhale, lengthen the spine, expansion into the back of the rib cage. On your next exhale, co-contract, reach through arms and legs as they start to float up off the floor. Forehead floats up off the floor, chest floats off the floor, gaze stays on the floor. One more breath here, and then gently come back down. This time we're going to body float and then go into swimming. On your next exhale, co-contract, root through the pubic bone, reach long through arms and legs, lift forehead, lift chest, raise right arm, left leg another inch or two, and then switch to the other side, alternating opposite arm and leg raises, keeping shoulders drawn down the back of the rib cage, pelvis stable. Stay long through the back of the legs, keeping your legs as straight as possible. Reach through the big toe of each foot and through the pinky side of each hand. Last time on each side, and then reach equally through arms and legs as you gently bring them back down to the floor to rest. Take both hands, stack one hand on top of the other so that elbows are facing out away from you. Forehead is going to first rest on one hand, and then you're going to think about taking your right cheek to the top of your left hand. So left hand should be stacked on top. And from here, on your next exhale, root through the pubic bone and lift your left arm and your head so that your chest is coming up off the floor, your gaze is to the left, and then come back down. Inhale, and on your exhale, lift. This time we're going to add the leg as well. So this time on your exhale, root through the pubic bone, lift the left arm or right leg. This is called Tom Swan, and come back down. And on this last time, you're going to stretch as much as you can, lift as high as you can, and see if you can see your left foot in the periphery of your left eye. It may or may not be there this time. That's okay. We're going to switch to the other side. We might do this again next week. So your left cheek is resting on the top of your right hand. I've changed the stack of my hands. I'm going to start by just raising my right arm. I'm allowing my left cheek to weigh heavily into that top of that right hand, and then raising back up again. So I have a little bit of rotation with my chest float here. Last one, rooting through the pubic bone, lifting just upper body. And then I'm going to add lifting the opposite leg. So on my next exhale, I root through the pubic bone. As my right arm and head lift, the left leg lifts as well, reaching through the toes and come back down. And exhale, root through the pubic bone, lift opposite arm and leg, and come back down. This time I'm going to really look for that leg. As I exhale, root through the pubic bone, I lift And I'm looking over my right shoulder. Oh, there's my left heel. Nice. And then come back down. Good. If you couldn't see your heel this time, it often just takes practice. As we say, practice makes progress. All right, take your palms, place them underneath your armpits. Curl your toes underneath you. You can come straight into all fours. You can come into a push-up on your knees or come straight into plank. Either way, we're all going to meet in downward facing dog. Draw shoulders down the back of the rib cage, reach through the heels. On your next exhale, lift the belly as you simultaneously press into the palms, coming up into whichever position you decided to come into. And then draw your sits bones back behind you. Draw your heels down towards the mat, stretching through the back of the legs, specifically stretching the hamstrings, calves, the Achilles. Reach long through the sits bones and then walk your hands towards your toes. Lengthening through the back of the legs. As you lengthen through the back of the legs, you can keep a bend in the knees, but think about drawing sits bones up towards the ceiling, drawing your chest a little closer to the top of the thighs. Take one more breath here. On your next exhale, hollow out through the belly as you scoop the pelvis, rounding the spine, rolling up one vertebra at a time. As you come to standing, sweep arms overhead, reaching equally through both hands, palms face in, and on your next exhale, bring palms together and to heart center. Thank you all for joining me for mindful movement this morning. I hope you have a wonderful day. Nice job keeping up your practice. I know sometimes it can be a little challenging during these times. If you have time to stick around and chat and give feedback, I would love that. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your day.